I give this a few minutes to send out notifications, even though sometimes they don't. I'm going to give everybody a chance. I know I've not been on much. I've been just busy, not feeling well. Busy, not feeling well. It seems to be my life. Busy, not feeling well. Busy, not feeling well. And of course, if you don't catch me live, I always do leave these up for you and so you can catch me later. Did not rest well last night. I am in the process of crocheting a head for this possum. This is my in-between possum body that I created between the two, the cuddler or the snuggler and the stiff-legged one that stands up that's totally stuffed. This one is just barely stuffed and very cuddly, and I've had a lot of positive responses to it, so I'm making a few. As quickly as I can. Howdy, howdy. Say hello when you pop in. We're going to wait and give everybody a few minutes to pop in before I start yapping. It's been an eventful week or so in my world. Very eventful. And I've not felt well, but I've also been busy. Got garden stuff to keep up, and then trying to crochet a little bit. David wants to go to a 4th of July market, so trying to get some stuff done. It's just been a very busy few days, y'all. So pop in and say howdy when you pop in. I know y'all have not seen me. I've not even been in Boomer's chat, and I apologize. I'm going to have to get caught up. I've just been really busy, and then had a couple days where I've not felt the best. And I believe I had a stomach virus, honestly. And it didn't bother David hardly at all, but when I got it, it certainly tore me up. But I think it's because my Graves disease. But other than that, I've gotten a lot accomplished. I've crocheted three of the bag holder possums. Oh, thank you. You don't have an easy name. I'll just say howdy. Thank you. I appreciate that. My daughter had twins, and when she had twins, she was looking at crochet stuff for the nursery, and I was like, that's flipping expensive. I'll just make it, because I crocheted vaguely when I was young. I did like granny squares and stuff my mom taught me. So I picked it back up and dedicated myself to learn amigurumi, because she was having twins, and I was not going to pay for that much nursery decor. And I made it, and I still make them stuff. I made them Tigger and Winnie the Poohs that were as big as them for their second birthdays earlier this year. I did videos about it. And it took me $80 to mail it to them, but you know something? It was worth it. It was worth it, because they knew that Nene sent it to them. I'm just a Appalachian. I'm not an LGBT group. I know a lot of people see all my Freddie Mercury tats and stuff. I'm a huge Queen fan. I've got a portrait of Freddie on my arm. I am a huge Queen fan. I have been since I was 12, many years ago. And I let people be who they need to be, and I am who I need to be. And if we get along, we get along. I think if you go out into the world expecting everybody to look like you and be like you, it's going to be a boring world. So yeah, the Queen music, I found it when I was, just preteen, living in Appalachia. It's probably a miracle I found it. And my mother and father, I don't think, were very happy about it. But they allowed me to listen to it. I think it was better than I still listen to like Metallica and all that, and Pearl Jam, and, Soundgarden, all that stuff that came out in my age group. And even listen to some really like hard rock from back in the day. But parents kind of let me explore music. I played the fiddle when I was young. My papa was a fiddle player, and I learned to play on his fiddle and the one, and sung in church. My dad was a preacher. hence why he wasn't very happy about me finding the music of Queen. And my mom is an educator, and so I grew up. My dad was a farrier as well, so I grew up between horse barns and lecture halls. Had a very weird upbringing, but I mean, I think it shaped me into who I am. So I'm very happy and blessed. So, but I love Queen. I love Freddie. If you really start to study the AIDS epidemic in the 90s and you understand the roles people played, I don't think I can ever bring it to myself to forgive Fauci for standing up and, who found what they needed at the time to move forward and treat people. And Fauci wanted the patents, he wanted the money, and he delayed the advancement of that medicine and forced France to negotiate. It would look like he did everything. And that slowed down a lot of people getting the drugs they needed. And I really believe if Fauci had not been such a giant turd, that Freddie Mercury, now a lot of people probably couldn't have gotten the medicines. It would have been very expensive because they earlier. We wouldn't, we would have saved a ton of people. And I think Freddie would have been able to have purchased the medications and possibly gotten, to where he could stabilize. I'm really good friends with Peter Freestone, who lives in Prague, who was his personal assistant for the last 12 years of his life. He was with him when he passed. And I'm blessed to know him. He's a very sweet man. My postman always thinks I'm crazy when I bring stuff in to mail to Prague. But, I'm blessed to have him as a friend. He's such a sweetheart and such a calming energy. I know why Freddie wanted him around. But their music kind of shaped me, and it gave me the fortitude to handle difficult things. It gave me the insight to understand how different and colorful the world could be. It helped me imagine a life outside of these hills. I went on to get my master's in psychology. I was very happy. And I did counseling. I worked with youth offenders and I worked with adult offenders. I supervised violent offenders for my state for a little over a decade. And all in all, I worked in corrections close to 18 years. And I learned a lot that helped me kind of deal with those things through music. I used a lot of music therapy in my counseling as well. So you're in the UK and you love Appalachia, and I'm in Appalachia, and I was like just fawning over everything that was, British growing up. Now, my first father-in-law actually was from Hackney, and I don't know how that occurred because I met a Tennessee boy, and we were young. We went in high school. We got married after high school, but when I went to visit his parents, his father was from Hackney, England, and I was like, because he had dual citizenship for a long time. And I was just like, how in the world in Tennessee, in the middle of Podunk, did I find the one English-speaking man? He passed away a couple of years ago, bless his heart. But I always thought that was funny. The first 6 months of that marriage, anytime that I spoke at the family dinner table, he would go, huh? And I could understand him perfectly for years of listening to interviews from Queen. So it was a very one-sided relationship for a long time. But I knew a lot about farming, and he had a cattle farm and had never farmed. And I taught him a lot about farming. So, yeah, I'm in the high spot in East Tennessee, right on the line between Middle and East Tennessee on the Cumberland Plateau. And we have the dying dialect. I have been recorded by linguistic professors. It's strange how you find people, isn't it? Of course, that marriage did not last. He met a temp agency secretary and 3 days left me with 2 toddlers. And here's some Appalachian logic. Once a dog learns how to run trash, that's all it'll do. Get rid of the dogs that run trash. So he had to go. So got my kids and moved back home because I lived down toward Nashville at that point. Moved back home and started over. And lo and behold, met a wonderful man who just 3 months after marrying me adopted both my children because my ex-husband was begging the state to terminate his rights so he wouldn't go to prison go to jail for a child support attachment. He was not paying child support. I did everything on my own. And now we've been married 23 years. The kids are grown. I've got grandbabies. Life goes on. Yeah. Country logic is normally a little crude, but it works. Like, you know, I used to have parolees from prison that I would supervise, and I would tell the parolees, and y'all excuse my blunt language, but they would always go back to prison over a stupid woman. And I would just take them aside and I'd be like, listen, you can report me to whoever you want to report me for saying this, but you need to hear it. And I said, you're never going to find a lady looking for a bitch in heat. And I've had so many grown men come back to me 10, 12 years later and going, oh my God, that stuck. And it made me think. And I'm like, good, that's what it was supposed to do. It's what it was supposed to do. So the last week I actually had to deal with some more court stuff. I had a good friend that needed me as a character witness because of someone trying to claim some very horrid behaviors. And it took everybody aback. And it was just a relationship with a very bad power dynamic that got out of hand. And this woman really was out to ruin this young man and, you know, take his child. And because I worked so long at corrections, he was like, I want you with me at my lawyer meeting. And I talked to him and I said, look, I said, she has no proof of this because it did not occur. I said, she has no pictures of any harm done because it did not occur. I said, the detectives are going to look into this and say, sorry, ma'am, but we can't prosecute. We can't take charges against him because you don't have enough proof to make the state want to. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. I said, no, they may give her an order of protection just to keep y'all away from each other in the meantime. But I said, don't think anything about that. That's super easy to get. I said, anyone can come in and say, you know, they hurt me and get an order of protection in court. I said, wait and see if she can get charges. I said, bet you she can't. And they did give the order of protection just as a cover their butt because the detectives could not find any proof to prosecute on. And he said, what do I do now? And I said, you don't contact them. I said, you don't think about her. You don't even send energy her way. I said, you don't send a message through anybody. I said, all that is contact. And he said, well, what do I do, though? I said, you sit here and wait for her to screw up. I said, because she is so power absorbed, she will screw up. I said, if she is not trying to manipulate somebody, she has nothing to do. I said, just wait. She will reach out and cook her own goose. 3 days later, she was texting him. Now, listen, I don't care if you're the person who petitioned for the order of protection. You must follow that court order as well. It's there to protect you, and the court expects you to not have any contact either. Both parties are under the same rules. So he is currently at his lawyer's office to show proof of her trying to reach out and already trying to stir the pot. So I'd say that they'll call him back to court and that will be dismissed. She may be found in violation of a court order and get a slap on the wrist. She's going to learn a lot about behavior from this. And it's sad because she's pushing 30. She ought to know more than she thinks. But she's going completely on emotions, and I'm sorry, but emotions are not facts. And it's been a sad week to watch this young man go through this and not have any contact with his child that he misses terribly. And his whole world fell apart because somebody was bored. Makes me so mad. Yeah, never stop your enemy while they're destroying themselves. Never. Never, never. Let them go ahead and trip up. Give them enough rope. Go hang themselves. Watch the show. Get your popcorn bag and watch the show. That's what I told him to do. He said, how do you know it's going to happen? I said, because she's not happy unless she's meddling. I said, she won't be able to sit on her thumbs. And lo and behold, she wasn't. I'm making a possum face to go on my headless possum. I do, this is a cuddler. It's between the snuggler and my really firm ones that have the legs that stand up. A lot of people like the really soft ones, so I'm making really soft ones. I have done 3 long bag holder possums that hold your kitchen bags, and this would be my second little cuddler possum. And I'm working on 2 dolls that look like Boomasan. Do you mind of Boomasan here on YouTube? So I've been super busy this week. I just had a lot go on, and then had a few days where I did not feel the best. I think I had a tummy bug that was going around. And because my health is so precarious, poof, I was sick for a few days. Women do use kids as a weapon, and it's sad because when my ex ran off, he never wanted to see the kids, never asked about the kids, never. Well, he never paid child support, so I had child support attachment. I think the state finally got $1,400 out of him. $1,100 of it was sent to me. And back then, we had just bought this land and had some neighbors that had big dogs, so we used that toward fencing the property so the kids could play outside safely. I had to pay for the adoption. He had to petition the state to, he said, I'm petitioning to terminate my rights and allow her husband to adopt. He had to write the state and beg, basically. And then the state came to me and said, do you approve? And I was like, yeah, I sure, just to get him out of my hair and stop his whining. And, the sky's falling all the time because he can't do anything he was supposed to do. It was all his problem, but he made it mine. But until he started seeing this woman, he never wanted the kids. As soon as he started seeing this woman, he wanted the kids. Well, I found out the woman was basically, she thought she was barren at the time. She did have one child. And she wanted my children. And I took massive offense to that. Any woman should. And then he started, saying, oh, I want to see the kids. And it was so rude because I knew he was not wanting to see the kids. She was wanting to see the kids. And it was so hurtful. And I tried to deal with that as much as I could. My life meant nothing to them. He got married the first legal day he could. And literally, I told him, I said, I don't agree with how y'all met and what y'all are doing, but at least you had the follow through to get married. Okay, let bygones be bygones. Now we have to co-parent. These children are not animals. They're children. They need a schedule. If you say you're going to be here and it's your weekend, you need to be here and it's your weekend. We can't constantly be rescheduling, calling on Thursday night when you're supposed to pick them up Friday evening, saying, oh, I'm not going to be there. I said, I have to prep these kids mentally and emotionally for a weekend away. It's not easy for them. And I said, then when I do get them amped up to go and visit you and you drop the ball, it breaks their little hearts. Please don't do that. And I gave them both that talk when they showed up that night to pick them up, right after they got married, for a visit. And I thought, crazy, but whatever. And I gave them a little pep talk. And then she looked at me and she goes, well, that's great. I agree. But our next weekend, we're actually going out of town. Can we reschedule? And I said, did you hear anything I just said? I said, if you don't get them on your weekend, you're going to have to wait till your next scheduled weekend. I can't keep flexing with my work and everything I'm doing to meet y'all. I said, it just can't happen. Well, she thought that was me being rude. But then, just as soon as he found out he had a child support attachment, they both were wanting to terminate rights and get somebody to adopt them. And he would try to terminate rights before I ever got remarried. But as soon as he found out I was remarried, buddy, he was on it, buddy, like a mite on a chicken. And he could not make me move fast enough. And I was doing medical transcription in those days, and I got home from a shift at the hospital, and my new husband said, she's been calling you all day. And I was like, what? And he finally called back, and I took the phone, and I said, what do you want? And he said, I want to terminate my rights because David can adopt. And I said, the state has to approve that. I don't have the say-so. I said, so I guess you'll have to petition the state. I said, I don't have the power here. And he said, I don't want to go to jail. And I said, tough. I'm not here to make your life easier anymore. I don't know what to tell you. But he petitioned the state approved it, but then he looked at me, he goes, oh, I don't have any money to help you pay for this. I just need it done. So I paid for the adoption. And I went to court wearing a denim jumper, sandals, and a t-shirt underneath, very modestly dressed, and they walked in, new shoes, new clothes. Both of them had frosted hair, and I thought, what in the crap? There's my child support. And that's what the judge told them too. But some people just can't see that. They're blinded. I think that's a big enough head for this little guy. Probably too big. Yeah, let's take it back. Let's take it back. I get to talking and then my possum grows. Let's take it back. So, life is, it has bad spots in it. And that's what I told this young man. I said, listen, I said, it's a hard one to learn. And I said, I know how it shakes you, to the core, because someone that you loved and was supposed to love you can hurt you so bad. And I said, but you need to know that people are capable of this. And I said, you need to be aware. And from now on, when you go into relationships, you need to cover this base with people and see their perspective on it and how they would handle this and how they're going to respond to this behavior. And if y'all are on the same page about this is wrong, it should not occur. And I said, it will benefit you in the long run, but it hurts a lot right now. Of course, he's going to have to go after custody of his child, and it's a mess. It's a mess because somebody got bored, and it's so sad to see. It's so sad to see. But, people that like to manipulate, they get bored very easily, and so they will create things to keep their worlds interesting. They don't care who it hurts. I've been on the receiving end of that one many times. By people that should have known better. And all you can do is remove them from your life, because anyone that will use that against you is not worthy to be in your world. Well, I think I'm blessed to have him. He's kind of my bonus child, and I've watched him grow up, and this was really hard to watch him go through. Very hard. Now, I think I've made his nose too long. I don't make anything with pattern. I feel it out, and I make up. Hey, Sal, I have to make them several times sometimes when I do this, because I don't pay attention. I get to talking. Did anybody? Okay, the earthquake in Venezuela. Has anybody seen the paperwork that has been kind of making the run about all these big earthquakes? And what was it? Is it HARP? That has the machine that can create these disturbances. Basically, the fault lines and the plates are, lit fuses, and all you need is a little spark. And they're thinking maybe HARP has provided the spark for these things to occur. I don't know. I'm going to read more into it so we can talk about it in depth. I did just cursory investigations on it. Sabrina sent me a bunch of stuff to read, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting to think of, what people may be capable of doing. And we'll do out of greed or sometimes boredom. I think a lot of our politicians are just flipping bored. I think they're bored and they're like, hey, let's strike a match to that powder keg and see what happens. And they all need to be kicked in the hind end for thinking that people are playthings, because we are not. Sabrina has posted her Alabama classes. I think it's July 24th, that weekend. Yes. And I think the North Carolina classes are going to be posted soon. So if you're interested in either of those, go check it out. You can go on D as in ABCD, D Mind of Boomason. I'm sure he'll be posting stuff. You can go to Sabrina's Synergy page, Synergy SDW, Sabrina Dawn Wallace. And if you want to see all of her work and all of her receipts for her work and download the PDF, you can read about your biofield and how your biofield has been placed on the cloud and how you're basically being abused without even knowing it, then you can go to the Odyssey platform and search for Synergy, Psinergy, and you can download her PDF for free, print it out, and have all the links to all the information that she gets her material from, and you can research it yourself. You don't have to watch her, you can just get the links and research it yourself. Very interesting stuff. The classes are her biofield classes, so you can learn about your biofield, how it functions, how you can kind of control and manipulate it, and just to kind of tap back into that part of ourselves that, you know, our governments don't think we know about, and they don't want us to know about it either. Yeah, that's that. You make a good point about the two, and yeah, it one long, but it intermediately kind of stopped for just a second. But yeah, I would, because they were saying two, and I was like 45 seconds apart. Let's just say that's one, because I guarantee you something was probably still going on in those 45 seconds. And if you ask the people, they probably thought it was one too. You know, let's not take away what they went through. Yeah, it just looks so strange, you know, and I think we're going to have more and more around the world that start to look strange, you know. Sadly, you know, all this advancement in technology and stuff, it's not benefited us one bit, because the more we learn to do, the more we apply it to the wrong things. And, you know, I went into psychology wanting to help people. And all I learned by the time I finished my master's was that anything that they have learned that could be of benefit, of use to you, they've already taken it apart and learned how to manipulate you with it. And it ruined my whole perspective on my career field, because I already knew that I wanted to help people. But the parameters they set into place were not to help, it was to manipulate or to monitor. And I couldn't do what I wanted to do with the education I got. Psychology could be a very beneficial thing if not used in a menacing way. So yeah, and I still tried to use it the best I could and help people that were making bad decisions, understand why they kept making these bad decisions, how to change that decision making skills. But the more I worked in the field, the more I saw the pitfalls and the traps that were set for people. And I was not okay with that. I was not okay with that. And the more that they want you to push pharmaceuticals, even though when you read the peer review studies, they blatantly tell you, you know, what they are calling proof is something that could also be very much a figment of the imagination. It's such a small area. Like the medications they give you for depression and anxiety to change the chemicals in your brain, there is actually no proof. And you can go research this, don't trust me. There's no proof that they actually work. They just know that augmenting the chemicals sometimes helps alleviate these emotions, these feelings. And so they said, well, we'll just use this medicine that augments the chemicals in your brain and we'll get a response. And they say it's beneficial. If you look at the studies, they're like, yeah, it doesn't really prove anything. And now we see a lot of medications get used off label in ways that harm people. Look at gabapentin, that was pushed for so many years as a nerve pain reliever. And it doesn't. People started using it after surgery, and which boggled my mind, because if you read about the medication, it doesn't have any post-surgical, post-op pain relief. It takes a long time to get built up in your system. It does more harm than good. It ruins. It deletes your synapses in your brain, so you lose the roadways in your brain. So you lose memories, you lose skills, you lose information. And people were being placed on this after surgery with no other pain reliever and in a lot of pain, and doctors were refusing to prescribe anything else, even in post-op care. And it was the people that made this drug that marketed it incorrectly. They lied. and they told everybody it was a pain reliever. It is not. It is an analgesic for neuropathy, but it is in no way a pain reliever. Not for post-op pain, surgical pain. And so many people were treated very poorly by physicians for a number of years because it was not helping true, valid pain. And they were being written off as drug seeking. And, it was that they were using this drug inappropriately. And now we've got a whole population of people that have a lot of issues because of high doses of gabapentin for certain types of pain that it should not have been used for. And it's like, hello. Yeah, I worked in the judicial system and corrections for a long time, and I saw backroom deals. I saw them absolutely want to send people down the road that were maybe poor or not as respected, but if their child did the same thing, they'd be in a back room making a deal so their kid didn't get in trouble, and it just sickened me. It just sickened me. I, there's no reason for that. So I saw a lot that I really did not agree with, and it did not. When I left, I missed the people that I was helping, the people that I was helping to re-enter society and be productive, and the people that were really trying to make better decisions and learn the pitfalls of their own little decision making skills and change them. I miss those people. But the management, no, the management I worked under was way more crooked than anybody I had on my caseload. And I supervised the violent men, the murderers and stuff. So I miss my caseload. I miss helping people, but I still send people to treatment. They'll knock on my door and ask to go to drug treatment. I'll find them a scholarship or a grant bed. The jail would sometimes call me. They haven't in the last year because we changed sheriffs. But they used to call me all the time to come up. A guy was waiting for parole in the IPO of the jail, which I used to be an IPO of numerous county jails. The IPO of the jail hadn't got over there to his special condition was that he had to be released to a halfway house. They said, we can't release him, and he's already like 20 days over. And I was like, you're kidding me. Because this IPO was notified 90 days before his release to get it set up. Hadn't even come to see the man. They said, can you come set this up? Yeah. Somebody sitting on dead time they should be sitting on. That's rude. They paid their debt. They deserve to go on. So I would get buzzed into the jail a lot to find them grant and scholarship beds because they would have to, by law, they couldn't be paroled until they were being paroled to a facility. So I'd have to get all that set up, and then I'd have to walk into their officer's office and be like, hey, dude, this guy's over his release time. He could sue the state. He could sue you because you've not even made contact. I've got him set up. If you deny him this, you better have a good reason. So I try to help out as many people as could. Now, with my health getting worse, I have a neuromuscular disorder that's much like MS, but it attacks my organs. I don't do as much anymore as I used to. I do very little now. But if I can help somebody, I absolutely will. And honestly, the less anyone else wants to help them, the more it makes me want to. Oh, look, they put us in the algorithm. We've got a troll. Everybody give the troll a round of applause. He woke up this morning. They woke up this morning, and they did not have enough in their own world to validate them. So they came online to make fun of someone else. I don't know what it's like to be that lonely. I pity you, but your hatefulness falls on deaf ears here because I don't care what you think about me. My husband thinks I'm a prize heifer, so moo, bitch, moo. Everybody, round of applause for the troll. I think they actually spelled everything correct too. Woohoo! That's an educated troll. Wow, honey, I hope you grab life by the horns. Cause if not, it's gonna push you downriver, and you're gonna end up in a bunch of silt and shit you never wanted to see because you don't know how to handle the real world. Nice to meet you. Go with Jesus. Bye bye. People actually think they come on the internet and words hurt people. Words don't hurt people. Words show that there are people hurting, but words don't hurt people. So they can rest assured that they're feeling more pain than me because I don't have to lash out to anyone. I may be a big girl. My husband thinks I'm the prettiest big girl in the world. That's all I need. I am a pretty big girl too. I got massive shoulders from hauling hay and doing a lot of farm labor when I was a girl. Kind of shaped like a golf tee, but you know something? Whatever works. So that's the week I've had. You know, never, I really thought when I retired I wouldn't have to deal with lawyers and all that again, but it seems like I still get called to help people that are incarcerated. The jail needs help. The IPO won't do their job. Can you help? People show up at my door. I need a halfway house or a long-term facility. Can you help? I'm going to help these people. But it's sad because there's supposed to be nets set up to help them. And they all fail. And, millions of dollars get put into these safety nets for these things. And they all fail. And they all fail because they have jobs to do these things, but they don't hire people that care. And to be quite honest, as the world keeps turning, there are going to be less and less people that care. It seems like compassion and sympathy and empathy have gone by the wayside, or if they have empathy, they use it to weaponize against other people. Emotions have become a loaded gun, basically. Not everybody understands that emotions are like bus stops. You don't like the one you're feeling, wait 15 minutes, another one come by. They give permanency to emotions, which is not healthy. And then they push themselves into a life where they are constantly riddled with indecision and doubt. And they fall into the trap of, well, I need to go see a professional. A professional who will take you into their office and instead of building you up, will break you down and make you look at everything that you say is wrong with yourself over and over and over again. Now, yeah, you have to talk about those things briefly in therapy. You have to touch upon the trauma to heal away from it, but you don't re-traumatize all the time. And I think a lot of therapy these days is just, constant trauma dips for no good reason. And I think it's a way to keep people as consumers, to keep them in therapy, to keep them listening to anyone but themselves and their family, and to push agendas because, this is how pharmaceuticals make money. This is how a lot of groups make money. This is how a lot of governments and insurances make money. You ever want to see a really dirty hamster wheel? Just look at your community and the way it's ran and the money that goes through it. And you're going to see a huge hamster wheel, that benefits no one, except for the people that create these faux benefits. It never trickles down the way it should. They would say, if we're trying to send people on a grant or scholarship bed, get them sent before June or July because then the fiscal year ends and we have to wait for the monies. But I would call in August and September and they said, well, we've already spent all our money for the year. Excuse me? No, you've not. If you've done it in 30 days, then I need to report you because there's no way you can send that many millions, of dollars worth of people to treatment in that time. So do we have a problem or do we have a bed? And 9 times out of 10, they tell themselves, oh, yeah, we can find something. I thought you might. As these nonprofits, you can't go through that money in 30 days. It is established for a year. You've petitioned. It has been researched, investigated. That's what's been needed. We ain't playing that game. And then you've got people in your communities that'll tell you, oh, all you need to do is get this government grant. Get this government grant. Well, there's a man here that got a government grant to start a job, to start a company, to put in in Appalachia, the fiber optic cables in the wilds of Kentucky. He begged my husband to come work for him for all years, actually. And my husband finally did. You know, he promised him all this work and all this pay, and oh, it'll be better for you. You'll be home more. Well, he was home more because the man never would work. He'd finish the job and then they'd sit for 3 or 4 weeks. And my husband does not sit well. He has to be going and doing. Okay, he wants to work. Then come to find out, he hadn't been playing the unemployment in on him. So he didn't want anybody to file unemployment. So he kept trying to trip up unemployment. We had to report him to the labor board. Come to find out, he had gotten a grant. Basically, the way it worked was the grant said if you get X amount of miles of line put up a year, that's all you have to meet. So he was meeting the bare minimum. That way he spent out on his workers the bare minimum. So he could pocket the rest. They didn't ask for the rest of it back. They just asked him with this bare minimum, pay your workers, and the rest you can pocket. Well, he pocketed a whole bunch. He's about starved his workers out for 2 winters. He now cannot find anyone to work for him, and he wonders why. It's because you treat people like crap and you won't work. You know, you don't care about them. You don't care if they're eating as long as you are, and you won't pay on the unemployment, so you won't let them draw unemployment. Every time they file unemployment paperwork, you trip it up. So, you know, these grants and stuff that they say are benefiting communities, I don't believe they are. I think it is a handout for people to use inappropriately, or ineffectively at least, and it creates just another issue in the community because these people think jobs are coming in with these grants, but they're not. They're not, because people are wanting to pocket the excess funds. It's really sad. It's sad and it's evil. It's twisted. I don't need that anymore. Got a possum hit. That knocked my arm. Okay, let me read and catch up. Yeah, a lot of special interest group help each other get the grants so that monies can be pocketed, and then, they turn it, the government has financed a lot of things it should never have financed. A lot of people don't know this, but the Church of Satan, you know how that started? Oh, a man that was in the military. What was his name? If I could tell you his name, if I want to tell you. Anyway, he got accused of inappropriate adoration toward a young person. Okay, that's the nicest way I can say that. And when he got the charges, before he was convicted, the Army went ahead and discharged him. They didn't want none of that. I don't blame him. Well, even though he was convicted, he sued the military because they discharged him before conviction, and he won. He won like somewhere like $500,000, like as big money for the time. He used that money to fund the startup of the Church of Satan. Our military basically funded the Church of Satan. Tell me how that one occurred just so haphazardly. You don't think somebody was thinking? I get really irritated when I learn these things. Doesn't seem like anybody else does, but I do. He's going to have a long face, but I'm going to shorten his nose when I embroider his nose to bring it up a little bit. So I'm going to give him his noggin. They all look different. I learned, and if I use a pattern, they will look the same, but I don't like to use a pattern. I like to just kind of make these on the fly. I learned one time when a mother had triplets that came to David's booth, and they all wanted a possum, and I was making them all from the same pattern. Well, they couldn't tell whose possum was who. The moment they picked them up, they got them mixed up, and a fight ensued. And I watched that poor mama of triplets, and I actually took yarn out of my pocketbook and tied colors on their tails so the girls could tell them apart. And I was like, never again will I make anything look the same. And I have not. Because it created war amongst the triplets. And I thought, ain't no way I'm starting that again. Of course, my daughter has twins, but they never want the same thing. They have put in their request for Bluey, which has gotten bumped to the back, sorry to say, because of some orders I've had. But I'll get it. I'll get it done. I've got the yarn and I've got the pattern. So, but they only one wanted Bluey, the other wanted Bingo. They never want the same thing. So, but she has raised them to be little individuals. She doesn't, and they're fraternal. They're not identical, so it's not that big of a deal. But they're starting to talk now. And Buddy, when they called me that one night, we was on a video call, and they were watching Bluey, and they said, "Nanny, Nanny," and they pointed at Bluey and held up their other crochet that I'd sent them. I was like, "Oh, I've got to get it done," and I do. I've got to get it done. This is going to be one of my sleeping possums with the sleeping eyes. I don't always put safety eyes on everything because these go to kids a lot of the times, and I don't want the kids to have a choking hazard. So I do a lot of just little simple sleepy eyes and let it go with that. Getting the ears on is always fun because you have to crochet them on after the fact, and it can be a little irritating. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to put the eyes on now. Okay, I've got to touch this. I don't messes it up, but I've got to see what Sal said. Yes, they do overpower with lawfare. They bury you, much like the bricks and minifig thing going on with his family. If you've not saw the Lego controversy in the world today, you should really check out that case because that case is the best. It's the best layout of how the legal system is manipulated to pulverize the little man. You should bricks and minifigs and Reckless Ben on YouTube. You got it. You got to watch it. I've gotten to where these don't take too long to make, but some of the other stuff I make, like the dolls that I make, take about 20 hours a piece, 20 to 25 hours a piece. And I'm working on 2 of those right now, and that can kind of get old real quick. But I do enjoy, I get to make them each a little different, so I do enjoy that. It helps it not be as monotonous. Even though it can be boring sometimes. But I have fun with it. I'm having a lot of fun with these dolls. So, and it's kind of, I get it. Listen, don't be mad at me, but I get to poke a little bit of fun at Boomer too when I make them. And he's game for it. So I'm having a fun time with these dolls. He's absolute game for it. And I'm sorry, but the feet that I put on the last one, the hippie Boomer, the feet and the flip flops, those were epic. That made me so happy. Those little feet made me so happy. And I don't like feet, but I liked feet on that doll. That was the cutest thing I'd ever made in my life. Where'd I put the scissors? Ooh, I heard thunder. Must be one little tiny cloud over me. I don't see anything else on the radar. Okay. He's got little pink eyes. I will probably outline them with a little bit of black here in a minute. As my husband says, you're going to swallow that plastic needle one day. Probably. Probably. You'll have to see the story on the news. No, I try to be careful. I try. My bangs are, my emo bangs, my 48-year-old emo bangs are getting away. You like my Boomer dolls? Well, they take a lot of time, but people get such a kick out of them. And it's some people that, really have obtained their voice through his platform, where he lets people speak. And a lot of people just want to have something that reminds them of this phase in life when, you know, they learn to speak out and they learn to question things, and they just have a lot of respect for him. And this is just a little nod, a little homage to, you know, a good man that gave people a place to talk. And everybody was like, well, he yells at people that he doesn't agree with. He gets very passionate when he speaks. He does. I've not seen him be like nasty to anybody, but you know, he does get rather passionate when he speaks, but I've not seen him like cuss anybody out. That's come to his little, he pulls people up on the screen. I've not seen him be mean to people there. It's pretty amicable on everyone I've watched. He's nicer to people sometimes than I would have been, because I can be hateful. But they'll get mad because, well, he won't agree to this, or he won't let, you know, he'll yell at people. I've not seen him yell at people. He does get passionate, and then they'll be mad about something like that, and then the next day they'll be posting something about, oh, did you see where, you know, this group went out and beat this old man up because he, you know, voted for somebody they didn't agree with, and they'll think that's funny. And I'm like, you got mad at somebody for being passionately, you know, verbal, and then, but you're okay with physical violence. I'm like, make it make sense. So sadly, sometimes people aren't, you know, their equilibrium is just a little off. Just a little bit. I don't have my terracotta pink. I don't know if they discontinued that color, so I'm having to use a baby pink on my possums, and I really am missing my terracotta pink. I don't know what happened, but hello, yarn companies. Stop discontinuing my yarns. It's frustrating. I find color matches that I really like, and then they discontinue something, and then you have to go find it on eBay, or it's frustrating. Okay, now he has a nose. And I may put anchors to pull his face back. Oh, no, I may not either. Possums have big faces. Let's give him some ears. Let's see, I don't need, well, I'll need that in a minute. I had cleaned up the spot where I make stuff, and I had put all my yarn back up in my room, and then where I'm making the possum family this week and working on the dolls, I've had 2 different bundles of yarn needed, and I've made a mess again. So I spent all that time cleaning for nothing. Okay, let's give this little guy some ears. So what you do is you go through his head and you crochet them after the fact. I have to put them where I think they're going to look good. And when you crochet, you have to go through 2 stitches, so you have to look at which way the ear is going to slant. It can get a little irritating, but I always enjoy them when they're done. So, and I just do double and triple crochets into their heads. And sometimes I'll do, like, I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do double crochets, and I'm going to go back on top and do another line of double crochets on top of them. And then I give him big ears that kind of flag and curve. And that's how I do their ears. And I use a worsted weight yarn, so it's not a big puffy blanket yarn, so it looks a little bit more detailed. Looks better quality, I'll say that. Just time consuming, and my hands do sometimes hurt at night. I'd gotten used to, when I was learning to do those dolls, working with the fine yarn was really hurting my hands. Now that I've been working with the dolls, coming back to blanket yarn is really hurting my hands, and I'm like, body, keep up, you know. My body didn't keep up with nothing anymore. Yeah, I love to do, I do 1 line of double crochets, then I'll come up on top and do another line back, and it gives them a little flag ear. And possums have really funny shaped ears, and this is the closest I can get to their shape of ear. It's like a little tiny paper thin piece of skin And they're the oddest shapes. If you've ever been lucky enough to see one up close like that, they're the oddest shapes. So you don't really have to make ears per se, as much as you just got to make these little weird looking things on top of their head. So honestly, almost any kind of ear will work. I just found that these, I think, look the best to me. And I think if I could find a variegated worsted weight yarn that went from like black to pink and gray, that would make really cute ears, because their ears can be basically any color. A lot of them have like mottled ears that are different colors. So you end up with a little flap like that. Oh, I smacked myself in the face. You end up with a little flap like that. And you can even go one more if you want them to have big ears, but I like them to have little ears. I don't know. Let's give them big ears. I don't normally give them big ears. We'll give them big ears, see what they do. I'm sure some little kid will look at this and they've always wanted a big-eared possum. I normally only go 2 levels though, so we'll go 3 this time. I gave him a bigger noggin. He needs bigger ears. Some people like to make it super difficult, and I'm like, no, let's not make it super difficult. Let's make it super easy. I also, when I was learning to do a lot of the new stitches and stuff, I would watch a channel called Just Vintage Crochet. I watch her do mystery patterns and stuff from like the 1800s. And it's taught me a lot of how stitches are renamed, but they're the same stitch. It's taught me a lot of old stitches that have been just lost to time. I've learned how to read patterns much better, especially clothing patterns or doily patterns. Oh my gosh, doilies drive me nuts. But with her help, I've learned how to read the patterns fairly good. And her channel is amazing. So if you ever get bored and you want to buff up your crochet skills, go watch Just Vintage Crochet. She's flipping amazing. She is so good at what she does, and she keeps the camera on her hands at all times. You see her work through, she's reading the pattern. You see her work through everything. And, because I can make a pattern much more difficult than it's supposed to be, just because I'm kind of terrified of it. I will make it way more difficult than it's supposed to be. And I know everybody that crochets has done that. And so with her, she taught me how to kind of look at patterns differently and keep them simple. And just take them, a phrase at a time and do what it says. And if it doesn't work right, take it out and try it again. So there's the ear that it gave him. And they kind of cup. You can see they kind of cup on their own, and they really do, the shape and behavior of them, they really do look like real possum ears. And I've just not found anything else that looks as cute. I don't like round ears on a possum because they don't really have round ears. And I know a lot of people don't know that, but I'm from BFE, and I know that possums don't have really round ears. So it bothers me when people give them like teddy bear ears. I'm like, they don't have teddy bear ears. So now we just got to do it on the other side. And possum's ears are like crinkled and crushed to their heads most of the time anyway. I know that sounds horrible, but that's what it is. And so you don't even have to make them kind of go the same way or be pretty. You just got to get 2 on their head. And I found out that people will absolutely run after and purchase, the one that looks a little, bless its heart, messed up. They'll pick it before they pick a awesome made one. For some reason they fall in love with the little one-offs. And so I just make all of my stuff different now, because I've learned that people want something that's different. They don't want to mass produce anything, which I don't either. Even when I buy my gemstone rings, which I don't have any on, I've been so sick, I've been so swollen, I've not worn my rings in a while. But even when I wear my gemstone rings, I don't want them to look like anyone else. So I go to these little shops on Etsy, and I have these people make them for me, because I don't want them to look like anybody else's. I've got a garnet on its way to me. And a garnet really helps you ground to earth, to nature. And it's also my husband's birthstone, which, if you know my husband, makes a whole lot of sense. And I'm sure any of my old subs here are like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Because he's a trapper tanner. He's an old soul. And so I got me a garnet, in reverence to my husband, but also for what it stands for. And, my link to nature probably has been my biggest asset in life. It's brought me the most, honestly, the insight that people think I have to social behaviors has come from Mother Nature and watching the animals and wilderness and, stuff like that. And people get kind of irritated with me because I oversimplify people with, animal behaviors. And it's because, we are just kind of, one up the ladder from them. We do the same things. We don't want to identify that because that would make us feel less than, but we do the same things. So I use a lot of livestock colloquialism to make a point. But honestly, it makes sense to me because I really do think our governments think we're cows. Out to pasture, waiting to be, butchered for a bigger purpose. And I'm like, excuse me, sir? No. And you would think that it would be easier to put them on the head before you attach it to the body, but it's not, because this little bitty head will just roll and slip away. It's better to have the whole body attached so you can kind of anchor it to you while you're working on this, because the little round head will just run off and leave you. But this is how I found out to do this, and it seems to make people smile, so I'm going to keep doing it that way. I just enjoy, gosh, if a kid comes up and they have saved their money all week, and even though I know David wants to recoup his yard money because he lets me craft and he keeps me busy, so I'm not always thinking about my health. But if a little kid comes up and they have saved their money like all month to come to this market to buy something, and they've only got a few bucks, but they're just, you can see in their eyes they fell in love with something on the table. We're going to have a massive discount just for pure cuteness, and it happens. David's a sucker for it too. He does the same thing. How could you tell a kid no, when they're actually trying? They moved the Grinch Fest that we go to every December. They've moved it to another county. They moved it about 50, 60 miles east. We don't know if it's going to do better or worse. Number one, everybody knew where to find us there. They knew what booth we were in, and we had a lot of people that found us there every year. We don't know now if we're going to have a roof over our heads for the next one, what the circumstances are going to be. They've not sent out any notification. We paid well in advance before they moved it, so we thought it was going to be in the same place. We're trying to stay positive because the place they moved it to is a retirement community. So, a lot of people that want to go to it will probably still drive to it because they were driving to it before. Maybe we'll get even more business because it's in a retirement community and these people have big money and they're bored. Bless their hearts. I used to clean their timeshares. That's how I also got through college. I cleaned horse stalls and timeshares. So we're waiting to see what that looks like this December because I enjoy going to it, but now that I don't know what kind of environment I'm going to walk into, it's kind of scary because I was comfortable with the other environment because I knew my limitations and I knew that everything there was within them I could function. I don't know how this one's going to be set up. I don't know if we're going to be inside. I don't know if we're going to have room for a heater. So I don't know how my health is going to do when we go to this. And that has made me kind of irritated because it's a very expensive market for David to go to. And I like to go to it. I like to get out of the house. I don't get out of the house unless I'm going to doctor's appointments. That's boring. Okay, there's his ears. There's his ears. And his eyes just need something else. I'm not happy with his eyes. But I don't want to like give him dark black eyes. Let's see what this looks like. It may not look good, but we're gonna try. He just needs some definition. It can still kind of get hid behind the pink. It just needs some definition. I'm not happy with him. And I will sit with these Booma dolls for hours and like add stuff, take away stuff, change stuff. And David would literally, he'd be like, that was done 4 hours ago. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Added more hair. I went in and shaped the face again. I went in and added this. And he'll be like, well, stop. And I'm like, no, I enjoy this. But I really want to send something that people, you know, can be proud to have. I'm going to try to layer this below or on top of the pink. We'll see how it falls when I anchor it. It may not work, and I don't know, it might. We'll see. They're like, yeah, I want you to enjoy what you get and to know that I spent a lot of time on it so that you'd be satisfied and happy and to make you smile. But I do sometimes spend way too much time on things. But those little dolls, I mean, you know, I'm learning new tricks with them because they're a new pattern. And I want to make them all individual, so I'm learning new things to do to each doll to make them stand out. I try to make them close so that people know they're still getting the same, you know, roughly the same thing, but I want to make them also individuals. And I'm going to push that brown just below the pink. And it just barely gives a little line that shows his little sleepy eyes. That made me happy. That looks a lot better. I'm okay with that. I think black would have been too harsh. Brown worked much better. I'm a little worried about the weather next week because it's supposed to be 90-something degrees. The place we're going does have a lot of like full-grown trees and, you know, a lot of shade in the town square. So that will be handy. But I'm just like, I hope we get a shady spot. There he is. He's done. He's done. He's got a big long nose and a big squishy body. His head is stuffed better than his body. People like the squishy bodies with these. So this is my in-between possum that I started making between the snugglers and the ones that stood up on the 4 legs that are stuffed so firm they can stand up. You got a long nose. That's okay. We'll call you Big Nose Cake. I tried his head 3 times. He just wanted to have a giant head. It's just he wanted it, so he got it. So I'm cute though. I've got them all. If you know my little tree that I have, it used to be the stocking tree for us. It's they have cut a cedar that had a bunch of limbs on it. We used to hang all our stockings on it. Now it's something that I use in my home to put the things I make on, and I've got all my possums hanging on my tree. It's adorable. Kind of makes me want to make more to just have there, just for show when people come over. Like, that's my possum tree. How country can I be? That's my possum tree. But y'all, I'm here to tell you, twice I've had people deliver my Walmart orders, and I have just been like moved to give them a piece of crochet. And each time, one of them had a child that they were getting supervised visitations on. They were earning their custodial rights back, and they've been doing really good for like 3 years. And they were fixing to petition the courts to get their rights back. And they had a visitation coming up that Saturday, a supervised visit, but they had not gotten paid yet. But they were wanting to take something to the child, and they were like, bless you. And I was like, I just felt that you needed one of these. And I mean, I thought they was going to break down on my front porch crying. And then the last time was a grandma that I had seen on supervision and had been doing really well. I knew that she had just had a grandbaby, and the grandbaby was about pushing 2. And she's been doing great. And so I kind of gave it to her as a congratulatory, you're doing great. Here, take this for your grandbaby. And she liked to hug my neck so hard she about broke it. But people, and then it never fails. They'll always try to pay me after I gift it. And I'm like, I gave it to you. You can't pay somebody for something they give to you. And their jaws always drop. But it makes me so happy to have something that I can do that makes people smile like that. And sometimes if I have a feeling that I'm supposed to do something like that, I will heed it, because if I don't, I will get my noggin smacked by the good Lord above. So I've learned to just listen. So I just freely gift them when I feel the need to. And, both times that I've gifted them to the Walmart delivery people, bless their hearts, because some days I can't walk the store, it's been greatly appreciated and kind of been like something that needed to happen. So, and I think the 18-month-old had recently been sick and in the hospital, but had come out of everything okay. And the grandma was like, "That, thank you so much." And I was like, "I just wanted you to have it. You're doing great. Take this to the grandbaby." And I always enjoy when I see people that, were having a rough spot and they're doing great now. I always want to celebrate them, because y'all, it's difficult when they get you on paper and on supervision. It's difficult to come back from that, because the states and the feds, they build it so that you are financially responsible in such a plethora of ways, from the supervision to the things that you have to complete, the work you have to miss to go through counseling and to see your officer and to go through classes that they want you to take. It's difficult. And I ran out of yarn, and now I'm trying to pull this through without losing it. And so when you see somebody be successful off of supervision, they had to want that, because the system is not built for that. It's built to keep you responsible and financially accountable. And every year that you stay on supervision is another year that they can cha-ching your butt. They get money out of you. So celebrate these people that change their life and get off supervision, because supervision is not meant to be easy. I had leftover string, so I turned it into a little beard curly cue so I could put it in his beard. Don't waste anything. Nothing at all. Yeah, I did. Yeah, and when I don't follow, when I'm told to do something like that, when I don't follow, I will get my noggin popped, and I'll be like, "I'm sorry." And like, I passed a homeless guy one time on the street, and I got about a quarter mile down the road, and I felt so bad that I had to immediately turn around and go back, and I asked what he needed, because I wasn't going to hand him money, because you don't know how they're going to spend money. I asked him what he needed, and actually took a list of what he needed, and on my lunch break stopped at the store, got it, and took it back to him. I was coming home from counseling in the neighboring county one night, and it was probably like 9:30. I had a juvenile group that met for 3 hours in the evenings. And I passed a man that was broke down on the side of the road. And by the time I got about a quarter mile down the road, I knew I was supposed to have stopped. And it made me mad because it was dark. It was nighttime. I was alone. But I pulled over. He seemed like a nice guy, but I told him, I said, "You try anything you have done screwed up, because I'm mean." I said, "I'm going to take you to the gas." He'd run out of gas. I said, "I'm going to take you to the gas station and bring you back. Make sure you get started," because he didn't have a cell phone or nothing. And I said, "Then I'm gone." And he was so thankful for that. But that's scary, but I couldn't, if I'd gone home and feeling the way I would, it would have bothered me for the next 10 years. That's just how I'm built. So I try to always heed that. You don't know what's going on in their life, but you know something is for it to hit you like that. So, oh yeah, and I know if I don't obey, I will get my head popped. So, you can kind of feel the Lord go ding right at the side of your head, and you're like, "I know, I should have listened. I apologize." And that's when you turn around and you go take care of business. So I've done that a lot too. But now, don't get it wrong. I'm hateful in 5 seconds. That's how I supervise people. I give you the emotion you need, that you at the moment you need it. And so, people that are hateful to me, I can be hateful right back. If I can be a hooch in 5 seconds. I don't like to do that. I don't like to live there. So I try to be nice. And I always try kindness first, but kindness does not always work with everyone. And sometimes parameters, really good healthy boundaries and a firm message works better for some people. And it's just part of learning society. And it's so sad to see young people not have that skill because they're so removed from physical interaction. Y'all, the world has got to exist. We have got to be able to interact. We've got to be able to have people that can come together, disagree, and still move forward with things. And we're losing that as a world, not as a nation. We're losing it as a world. These greedy old men see that, and they're taking advantage of that. So they're manipulating the data and the info because they know they've got a scared generation or two coming up that is not going to be able to break away from their fear, their emotional anxieties that they have created about physical interaction. And I'm like, y'all, these anxieties you have about physical interaction, it was cultivated by the people that have power. That's why you're terrified. If you get out and you physically interact in 5-10 minutes, you're going to feel that energy swap that you get from people. It's good. 99% of the time, it's really good. It's beneficial. It's healthy. It helps you stay healthy. It helps you heal. It helps release the right chemicals in your brain. It's so beneficial. And we've got we've got 2 generations now that are incapable of doing so. Keeping cool so far. It bothers me that they basically they took away a lot. They talked us out of a lot of our senses that we have. So our 6 senses and a lot of things that we do naturally, they've made it woo woo, scary. They've we were reading The Invisible Rainbow, which is there's a lady on here that reads it every chapter. You can go listen to her if you want to. And it was about electricity and medicine through the years. And electricity was part of medicine for many years because they knew the body was electric. Somewhere along the way, they decided it was more beneficial for them to have that as a secret instead of knowledge. So they took the electrical component out of medicine and out of biology. And so a lot of people don't understand what their bodies are being attacked with on the daily because they don't understand that they're electrical, that they are a receptacle, that they receive and send out signals, and that we are basically batteries and antennas, and we're being used. Our biofield is being used without our knowledge and without our consent. But it's because they don't know that they have a biofield, because they just kind of erased it from the vernacular, and therefore they erased it physically. So, Sabrina goes around and she teaches everybody about the biofield. It's a very beneficial group lesson. You have to do it in a group because you have to have the other people to interact with. But if you go and you learn about it, it's going to kind of open your brain up to where you can see a lot of influence in medicine and pharmaceutical. You're going to start looking at things differently because you know now how your body was meant to work. And it just kind of makes you think in a different way. So I know that since I've met Sabrina and we cultivated this friendship, a lot of the things that she's taught me has greatly benefited my health. So I am still very sick. I have a lot of damage that was done over the last 20 plus years from surgeries that should not have occurred, injuries that occupational hazards that, should not have been there. And so I'm going to have problems. I have a lot wrong with me. But even though I'm still very sick, I have not had the massive issues that, I was in the hospital every 6 to 8 weeks 5 years ago. 4 years ago, I was in the hospital. And that has greatly reduced since I've learned more about how my body works and the things that are beneficial. My parents, like I've talked several times, they have one of the old school Rife machines, RIFE. I use that when I'm down the hill. We use colloidal silver. You need to research this stuff, but all of this stuff is really good. But a lot of the stuff I've learned from her has just been, very simple stuff, but it has a very profound impact on my health. And, I'm never going to be right anymore. The damage has been done. But I am more capable of maintaining pretty much a plateau. I'm dealing with some thyroid issues now, and the medicine is I'll gain weight and I'll lose weight. I'll look starved to death one year and plump, the next year. It is what it is until we figure out what's going on. It's just what's going to happen. But because this disorder attacks organs, we're pretty sure that's what's going on. And this is a terminal disorder. It will eventually get me. It's like the slowest roller coaster ride ever. So don't feel sorry for me. But it is what it is. And I'm just lucky that I still have voluntary organs that I can give away and not need. So I'm been lucky so far. Knock on wood. But eventually this will attack something that I need, and it will cause a lot of problems. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But a lot of the stuff that I have a deep fear of doctors because they've never been useful. They've been quite mean and hateful and two-faced, and I don't appreciate them. And I started getting more of a plateau better when I stopped doing everything the doctors told me to do. And that may not be right for everybody, but it was right for me. I stopped going to the neurology group because every year they didn't want to see me until they could put like 200 probes in me and fricassee me. They wanted to electrocute me so that they could see where the nerve function no longer was reaching. I could tell them that. I lose sensation. I can tell you exactly how it's traveled. And so that's all they were going to do every year. I said, no, it's okay. I'm not barbecue. So I opted out of that. They got mad at me. I said, well, you show me a benefit. And they couldn't. And I said, I think this is more detrimental. And I said, I think it's damaging my biofields. And I said, I think that's why it's being done. And they just kind of looked at me and I said, I don't think you need this much information for my digital twin. And they, their eyes will get big when you use words. No, well, if you make your own colloidal silver water, then you know what it is. So my mom and dad actually have the machine that makes the colloidal silver water. It takes like 4 hours to make like 2 quarts. It's a long process, and you have to buy the silver, so it's not an inexpensive process. But the benefits of just a couple of sips of colloidal silver water, at certain times when you're feeling certain issues, is very beneficial to your body. It's been really good for my skin, which has really suffered with the Graves' disease and my disorder. So you got to have, for me particularly, you got to have the most control over creating what you're using. So like I will go and pick goldenrod to make tincture for inflammation. I've got a lady that makes losing my words, a lymphatic drainage tincture. I trust her. I get from there. I try to stay as close to nature as I can now. A lot of stuff I'll make myself. I'll make my own mullein syrup for cough syrup for the winter. I do a lot of herbs and stuff in my own garden. I'm still trying to get bone set to grow here. I'm having a really hard time growing bone set. But bone set's one of those supposed to be like cure-alls. And I'm really interested. I want to make some tea, but I'm having a hard time getting it to grow here. But I've got my comfrey and all my stuff in my backyard. And so I try to stay as close to nature as possible. And I was lucky that I had people in my family that were very close to nature. My mom's family, my great grandma, and she looked like she popped off a Western because she been on the reservation. This is what my great grandma looked like. And she taught me a lot. She was always outside, always picking something, always making something. And I just followed her when I got to spend days with her. And I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted to. But she was a rather harsh woman. But I did learn a lot from her. I learned a lot from my great grandma. But yeah, you can actually get the machines that make your colloidal silver water, and it is an investment. But to know where it's coming from and to have control over what's in it, so that you know exactly what's in it, it's been very good for my family. My mother went through breast cancer about 20 years ago. Well, no, about 17 years ago. Yeah. And she'd always been health conscious, but it created a whole new shift. And she's done just like me and went back to the old ways. And it was the way she was raised too by her family. Her family are Lenape, a derivative of Cherokee. And my dad's Irish. That's why I look The Irish genes are strong. I am translucent. I was the only freckled child at powwows. It's okay. It gave me character. But you know, a lot of people are losing these skills. They don't know how to go out and what they can pick and eat. I used to guide trail rides, and I would gnaw on sassafras leaves because even though it's the root that really is needed for tea and stuff, you can still get that taste in the leaves. And I'd gnaw on sassafras leaves. I'd eat clover. I'd eat honeysuckle. These people look at me like I was crazy when I was guiding trail rides because I'd just be grabbing everything and gnawing on it. Hey, might as well, you know. We out there for 6-7 hours. Might as well. And a lot of people just don't have this knowledge. They don't know what's edible, what's not. What is the Appalachia, the forager, the Appalachia forager? I think that's her name. She has TikToks, and she has a YouTube channel too, I believe. She knows way more than I do. You know, she's very much more immersed in it. But my husband was raised in the same manner. He can go out and get bloodroot, and well, when we first got married and we paid for that adoption, we were broke. We paid for that adoption, we were broke. And my son had an infection. He had oral surgery. He had an infection, and we needed a very expensive antibiotic. And I did not have the cash. And my husband came home, got his little digger and his pouch, and went out in the woods and dug enough bloodroot to sell at the herb store to pay for the antibiotic. Man can walk in the woods and come back with money. It's a good thing, good trade to have. We ginseng for a number of years until my injury happened and my legs got really bad. I missed ginsenging. It was fun. You'd get on, they're called benches. The sides of the hills are called benches, and you work it one way to the other. And I love digging ginseng. It was fun. It was hard work, but it was fun. And you really got to know what grew in the land, how the seeds funneled down to the rivers, where the grades were, that the watersheds were. So you learned your area intimately. So you knew where the watersheds were. You knew where to hide if a storm came up, because you knew where the water was going to come down and was going to make loose footing. So you knew the safe routes on the mountains. You just got so smart from spending that time in the woods. And I miss it. I miss it a lot. I don't get out like I used to. I went hog hunting a couple of times with David last winter. We go out at night and pick off the boar that come in because they're just nuisance animals, but they feed a lot of people. So he'll drop them at the processors, and the family that needs meat will pick it up. They'll pay for the processing and pick it up. And he went just the other night. He goes quite a bit because this place is overrun with hogs, and he traps and tans. He traps for a cattle farm and traps the nuisance animals. So raccoons, skunks, coyotes. And we had a storm built here. Raccoons, skunks, coyotes. Some possums. He won't take all the possums. A lot of possums are needed for insect control. And then he'll try to harvest the hogs for meat. And even here in the boonies, I had a family contact us, and a lot of people contact us when they're in need, and had a family contact us and say, we're out of meat. Do y'all have any meat? And I said, well, we've got game meat. And they're like, well, that's fine. We'll eat anything. And I said, well, I've got some really nice wild hog sausage and some roasts. And they were like, can you eat wild hog? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, but is it good? I said, oh, once you get used to wild hog, you will never go back to store-bought pork. Store-bought pork tastes funny to me now. It tastes almost plasticky. I honestly can't tell you the last time I ate store-bought pork. I can't. But even living here, they had been scared by the government, by the powers that be. And I said, it's absolutely safe. I said, we harvest animal. We look at the organs. We're not going to butcher something that is sick. And we gave them a bunch of meat. We gave them a month of meat, and they were very thankful. I live in your dream world. Whew, it can be a nightmare sometimes, though. My husband goes out a lot, and the bears have now learned that wherever he is, there's soon to be a dead hog. And they get the carcass if he quarters it up and brings in, he'll leave the carcass out, and the bears take care of it. But now they've learned that this man leaves pigs around. So anytime they hear him or smell him, they follow him. So anytime my husband goes out to hog hunt, he's stalked by bears, and we're talking big bears. And so we have to be super freaking careful around here because the number of black bear coming out of the woods this year is probably quadrupled from 2 years ago. And we found out that the TWRA was actually releasing a lot of bear here because they wanted to create a new hunting season that they could monetize. Imagine that. But what it did was create a lot of overabundance in areas that can't maintain them because they don't stay where you release them. They run to hidey holes that they feel safe in. And a lot of them run to cattle farms. Why? Because a lot of people know there's not going to be a deer season for crap in Tennessee this year. Mark my words. Why? The next 3 years, we'll see low deer harvest. Here's why. The bears are now so populated in the area. People think that they eat roots. No. A lot of their main fat intake will come from fawn. They will actually find the fawns that the mothers have hid somewhere, and of course they won't move, so the bear just sniffs them out, and they scoop them up and eat them. They run off with them. They do the same thing to newborn calves. So farmers have a hard time if they're. My dad's a beef cattle. He manages a beef cattle farm. The bears will come in and they'll do the same to newborn calves when they're still small enough for them to drag off. So we're going to have a lot of nuisance bears in farms, and we're going to have a lot of deer population go missing because we're going to have a lot of the fawn population be killed because we've got so many bears right now, and we don't have enough. Like, I'm in a very wooded, backwoods place, but we don't have the ecosystem to support them and everything else. They have overpopulated them to where the land can't handle it. And they didn't give us any hunting seasons the last couple of years. They gave us like 2 rifle days. Listen, it's impossible. Everything else was archery. I archery hunted and got charged 2 years ago, but it's almost impossible to rifle hunt a bear in 2 days because they have such a wide circulation that you just don't know where they're going to be, and you can't bait here. I think they're going to change that though. So the numbers got really out of hand really quickly because they planned it that way, and I think that we're going to see the demise the next few years. The deer population is going to go way down. That's going to mean a lot of families here aren't going to get the food that they normally put up for the winter because we rely heavily on venison here. And it's not going to be a lot of harm to the hog population because a hog will actually fight a bear. Hogs are hateful. But the deer population, they're going to take those fawns. And sadly, it's not been a lot of sows that we're seeing. It's been the boar bears. So we've got a lot of rogue young males that have been dropped in the area, and they're creating tension. They're seeking out new territories. So there really is not a spot that does not have a boar bear on it in my area. You have to be super careful. A lot of the areas are sending out, the police forces are sending out Facebook messages each morning saying, be careful in this area, rogue bear, boar bear, will stop children and pets. Please keep away from this area. And it's like, if a bear has come to that much of a problem, it's time to remove it. But they're wanting to monetize on another hunting system, another hunting season. So here we go. I've got a message. Oh, we got Clarity in here too. Hi, Clarity. Yeah, it's definitely planned. Like, you don't see this normally. It would have taken probably 12 to 15 years for the population to get here naturally, and that's with really good seasons, lots of rain, lots of plants. It would have taken a while to have got them here. 15, 20 years probably in that frame. So we're all sitting here going, and then Teddy Bray announces, do you want to go bear hunting in Tennessee? Enter this raffle. And I'm like, oh, there we go. They're doing kind of like what they did with the elk, doing the big drawings that you buy a ticket and you get drawn. And the elk don't really want to live here. They want to live higher up in scruffier places. They don't really like it here. So they only stick to the highest spots in the hills and the roughest spots. But they make a bunch of money on their draw hunts every year. And I tell you where they've made the most money is when elk have been struck by vehicles or people have not known what was in their backyard and shot it, and it was a flipping elk. You know, a lot of people here have never seen an elk, and in the dark, something that's, you know, pushing your fence down or chasing your cows or something, you know, well, and then you get a huge fine, and now boom, you're, you know, responsible to the state for a butt ton of money because of an elk. Um, it's they've gotten more money, I think, through fines and charges for the elks being harvested in ways they don't agree with, than they have in the draw hunts ever. So it was just another way to monetize off of, you know, lawfare and all that crap. Oh, well, thank you. My perspective is not always the best one or the only one, so, but it normally is a different one. Thank you, Charity. I appreciate that. But I have a different view on things. I can take myself out of my country mindset and put myself into a city mindset because I've lived both and I understand both ways of thinking. I had to do my job. But I've met a lot of people in the city that can't understand the country perspective because they can't fathom the life we lead, because I don't like, for me it's not hard to envision a city life, you know, because we have to go to the city often for things. But a lot of people never really have to come to the country. So a lot of people have never seen and just can't understand. And so the wheels never got turning, and they just, you know, it's like Zsa Zsa Gabor going to Green Acres. It's just shock. And so you get a lot of animosity from the city folk toward the country people sometimes because we can oversimplify things to a fault. Normally, it's because we have a pretty good inclination of what's going on. But a lot of people in the city and a lot of people that work for government, they want things to be overcomplicated because truths can get lost in overcomplications. It's very hard for truths to get lost in simple things. So that's what I've learned. Normally, when somebody has a really big issue with a country perspective or a country of life, it's because normally what they're wanting is not what they're saying they want. They're wanting something else. They're normally wanting power. So a lot of times they'll twist animal rights, or they'll twist hunting, or they'll twist harvesting your own food, livestock, you know, meat production. They'll twist that into, you know, these horrible things, and all because, not that it's really wrong, because most of them do the same things just from a supermarket. You know, we just are closer to nature. They do it because they want power, and they want to be an overlord of, you know, they want to have dominion. And I have never really wanted to control anybody. I wish some people pull their heads out of their hind ends, but I don't want to control anybody. But wouldn't the world be a great place if we could all just take 5 seconds, and instead of rushing to our own conclusions, just take 5 seconds to have a different perspective? And I always say, if you just got two perspectives, that's kind of dangerous because it pits one against the other. Try to have 3 or 4 different perspectives to an issue, and it will make you kind of brainstorm the best way to handle it. Don't put yourself in like this bifurcated one or the other. Try to think 3 or 4 different topic, and so that, you know, it's a great way to kind of preemptively problem solve. Speed traps and school zones, construction zones, these new flock cameras. Holy crap, these new flock cameras. For anybody that has a flock camera that is over their home, get a lawyer, because you are unwillingly, without consent, under 24/7 surveillance. I have an issue with flock cameras. They also have a very bad oopsie daisy rate. So they'll either read license plates wrong, or this one woman that was a delivery driver in a small town, she got pinged and got the FBI after her because the flock camera ticked her off as pinged her as a drug trafficker. She was a delivery driver for the pizza place, but she got swatted because of a flock camera that has no thought process, no nothing. It only has an operating system, and it's making grave errors, and it's causing huge issues in areas. And flock cameras, Lord have mercy. Yeah, try to see all sides of the situation. Doesn't mean you have to agree with all of them. Absolutely not. But it's beneficial to you to understand where the other argument's coming from. Yeah, flock cameras are not good. There's been a lot. Like one guy was given 2 tickets on one day. He was like 50 miles west in another state working on a construction site. And he was like, how am I getting billed when I wasn't even there? But it says I was there, but he said I was not. I was at work, like 50 something miles this way in the other state. Thank God that his supervisor has the work sites, like closed circuit TV monitoring for the work sites. Saw him come in and clock out, so they know he was at work that day. They were wanting to charge him close to $800 for violations of something. And he was like, I wasn't even there. He was like, this. And then the flock camera, the guy that, okay, here's the funny part. The guy that orchestrated the entire flock camera, he is a foreign man. He doesn't reside here. He's a foreign man. So your information goes through his system, his operating system, his software to him first before it goes to your area. So your information, our community's information that is drawn on these flock cams, all the information they can get and look at all the movement and people and things that they can see from there, goes to a man that is a foreigner that he can dispense and disperse at whim in any way he wants to before provided to courts. And your money that you pay, they wouldn't let this man pay with a debit card. And so they fined him because he was trying to pay and they wouldn't let him pay. Oh, no, they wanted him to pay with a debit card. They wouldn't let him pay cash. He was either going to send cash or send a money order or something like that. And they refused it. And so he got another fine because they didn't accept the payment he sent. So it was now double late. And he was like, He's like, in the legal books, it says they have to accept, basically anything that is a legal infraction that can fine you must accept all forms of money and tender in that nation. And this foreign guy will not take cash. He doesn't want to pay to have cash to have to then take and turn over for whatever, his money is. He wants it to all go digitally through the banks. So you have to pay digitally. You have to pay with a debit card, credit card, something like that. So a lot of people think that, they can get a money order or, they can take care of it in their area. No, you can't. You have to send off a payment to a foreign man on foreign soil. Now, does that sound beneficial to our nation? No. So I learned a lot. I read a lot when I don't feel well. When I don't feel well, I normally learn a lot. Dave just came in from the fur shed. Say howdy, Dave.
Howdy.
Howdy. He said howdy. He said it's hotter than heck out there. How does this happen? Rich men who shake hands behind closed doors. I said that very, very quick, didn't I? Yeah. That's almost how anything bad happens. That's almost how anything bad happens. Sadly. And the people were not told about this. Now that we're learning about it, don't sound so good, does it? Our information should not be going to a foreign person. It should not be leaving our nation. It should be handled internally. Right? Just makes sense, right? Just makes sense. Everything's been outsourced. And, I hate to say this, but we have become the whore. America used to be the pimp. Not anymore, honey. We're on the streets. We're working. Oh, they all said, hey. They said it's hot and humid there, too. Well, the thing is common sense is no longer what's in, what's creating the systems anymore. It is greed and money. So it's going to be very difficult for the common man to bring these things back to, local power, because these people, that's why the lobbyists make the best money, because, people want these deals. They want this power. He's mixing him with water. No, we're not. Hey, no, we're not even the one on the That was crude but necessary. I agree. Well, charity, for the most part, the biggest sense that isn't being used in the world today is common sense. And it is, when we see these things go up, we don't research them and look into them. We don't learn how they operate. We don't learn who is pocketing the money behind them. We're too lazy these days to turn the page and do the work ourselves. Just like when I was reading that book and doing the breakdowns of the chapters, even though I gave links to a lady that read the book out loud by chapter, a lot of people would not even go listen to the book. They were waiting for me to come back and tell them point by point the most important parts, because it was easier. So we become very lazy, and laziness is not rewarded in any way, shape, or form. It's not rewarded in nature, and it's not rewarded, in this world either. So we just need to we need a cumulative action with enough people to learn these things early, like the data centers, when they started setting up these land buy and land grabs and bringing these diesel engines into small residential areas to set up these big data centers. They don't tell everybody what's happening. This man just wants to have a parking lot here for a factory that's down the road. They're going to run a shuttle. They'll lie. And then, we changed plans. We're going to now sell the land to do this. We're going to, and so they take it, and they have to go and list it, like put their expectations on the county's register, to let them know what they're going to do with the land. But they don't always have to tell the whole story. So they can always change their mind. And so the data center that basically bought up this whole residential neighborhood, they put a data center in a residential neighborhood. Like, all you can see from the house is a big black wall from like 5 houses. And now they're trying to buy up all the land around them, turn into a parking lot. And it started out just going to be like a factory parking lot extension for workers. And then it turned into, all of a sudden, there were these big engines. And they said, what's going on? Well, they changed their plans. They're going to create a data center. And by that time, they had snuck it under the wire to where all the contracts were dotted and signed, and there was basically no way to stop this. And they have bought this whole residential area. I watched the whole documentary about it the other night. It was disturbing. It was like looking at, it was almost like you were looking at a fictional movie, to where this big thing was looming in the background. The big thing was the data center. And from every porch that was left, all you could see was a big black wall of a data center. And all you could hear was the hum of all their engines. And, they sneak it in. And there's a man that actually builds data centers, and he's started to combat these things now. He's going forth and speaking to people saying, we don't need all this water. There's another way that they can do this. I built data centers, don't use a drop of water. They're just trying to be lazy, they're trying to save money, and they're trying to make the people foot the bill. And he's being very informative to people that are battling with data centers. And he says there's a better way to build them. They just don't want to be out the money. And he said, but I only build these. And he said they pay for themselves in, just a few years. He said these people need to have basically more ethics when they come into residential areas to do this. Oh yeah, they keep us busy. They keep us distracted. They they kind of taint the pool with addictions and mental health issues. And they've created such a pot of crap that you worry about. That you can't worry about things you need to worry about. And the sad thing is the things that you think you need to worry about, that they've told you to worry about, you don't need to worry about. Like, David's watching YouTube on his phone. Like depression and anxiety, that is turned into like a permanency issue in mental health in this nation. It is not a permanency issue. In no study does depression and anxiety override your normal functionality enough so to diagnose it as a permanency issue. It is an emotional bus stop. You do feel it. You feel it often. It is something that normally precedes or follows a major life event. It is a it's a time for your body to adjust and to let your body know you need to adjust. They've turned it into a sickness. And so everybody's so worried about, oh, I've got anxiety and depression. You should. It's how your body speaks to you. It's how you learn to cope with things. But no one's coping anymore. They're battling a fictional disorder. And look at the people that spend all that time going to doctors and going to therapy, and it's useless because they don't understand that that's an indicator. That's their body's indicator that you need to flex with your environment and what's occurring. So, they've given us so much to worry about that we shouldn't worry about. And hook, line, and sinker, we all took it. We all took it. Ooh, transpersonal psychotherapy. It's really wicked how they have worked mental health and just your emotional well-being, and they've broken it down into a financial onslaught. A lot of people are like, I should feel this way. You should. At certain points in time, you should feel this way. It is your body's indicator that you need to flex. You need to try something different. And instead of hating that and looking at what's going on in the picture, they only look at this one spot of the picture. That's not going to help you at all. And so we're focused on this. We should be focused on this. And it's how we miss a whole lot of stuff in life. A lot of people get diagnosed with stuff, and in the diagnostic manual, unless it is causing, like, honestly, huge, almost irreparable harm to your life for six months or more at a time, you shouldn't be put on a pharmaceutical, and you shouldn't be diagnosed. You should be helped to deal with an issue. And we have so many people that come in and they do these assessments, and in 30 minutes with one person that saw them one time, they get 3 diagnoses. You can't do that. When I was trained, you had to have people, you had to see them multiple times. You couldn't diagnose just on a whim. You had to get to know them. You had to have a basis. You had to have evidence. You had, basically you had to take notes to justify the diagnosis. You couldn't just jump and then give them a pharmaceutical. You had, you had boundaries that you had to meet before you could cross and go to the next level of treatment. And now they get seen for an assessment, and they're seen for 30 minutes for an assessment, and they get 3 diagnoses, and they get sent to this, to the psychologist, and they get, 4 medications, and they think they're healed. You're not healed. You did no work. Emotional behaviors and manifestations are to help you correct, life occurrences. It helps you handle, correct, work through. If you're not handling what your body is trying to help you correct, you've done nothing. And until you kind of sit down in your body and figure out what your body's telling you is wrong, you're going to keep running into it. And I think they want you to, because they want to tell you it's a permanent issue, and they want you to stay on medication because they make money off you. Hey, Colin, how you doing? Oh, menopause. They have turned menopause. Okay, they took something that in other countries is celebrated. It's like a celebratory issue to reach menopause. Number 1, hey, listen, you're going into your crone phase in life. Good on you. You made it. Number 2, it kind of releases you from a lot of obligations of a female that you've had to otherwise heed to your entire life. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Number 3, it's a time in life where you really get to settle down and worry about you. And your whole interest and perspective shifts, but it's a shift in that older age, in that crone years, to be a focus on yourself, your family, immediate issues. You become kind of like this community matron of wisdom. And instead, now we've turned it into, oh my gosh, you can no longer bear children. You're useless. You've wasted all your years. You're old. You're going to shrivel up and die. Celebrate getting there, ladies. Look at the wisdom you have to obtain to get that long in life, and let alone go through your childbearing years and make it there. And, yeah, your body's going to do some weird stuff. It's changing. It's called, an evolution into your crone years. Nobody celebrates anymore. Hey, listen, the wisdom you have had to obtain to get there should be celebrated at all times. Well, I've got another message. Hang on. Yeah, well, that's the biggest thing I have with psychology and counseling is when there are certain problems that arise that family groups can circle the wagons and take care of much more effectively and efficiently and calmly and less traumatically than taking that person and putting them away from everybody they've learned to trust into a stranger professional. But over the last 20 years, we've made it to where families, when they see somebody struggle, they go, you better go see a professional. Families don't help each other anymore. We have completely eradicated family aid. We've completely eradicated the family group, the dynamic, the elders that have the wisdom that we used to counsel. Completely erased that. Now we run to a stranger. We feel safer with a stranger than our own family. Tell me in what realm that sounds normal. Now, yes, there are certain places and times that you're going to need a professional. 90% of the time, a good family meeting can resolve a lot of things and make somebody really feel safe and loved. Geppetto is a company. Yeah, everybody wants to be the puppet master. Illness is big money. Mental illness is even bigger money because you can fabricate it. You can make people think they have it. A lot of people that are diagnosed, I saw a lot of people diagnosed inappropriately against the diagnostic manual, against the protocol and boundaries that are set for practitioners to have to, you have to meet requirements. When somebody's struggling, they have to meet certain requirements to get that diagnosis. They wouldn't even wait to understand the client. They would just slap a diagnosis on them because it meant they could push them down the line, put them in therapy classes, and give them medication. And I had a lady come in, I had parents come in. They were both on supervision. They'd gone through a DCS case, had got on supervision because they got charges. They were working to correct everything. They had to come to counseling twice a week. They had to go see their probation officer once a week. And then I did an assessment, and they really needed 3 to 4 classes. But I said, listen, y'all are working full time. You still have to see your probation officer, and you have to go to counseling twice a week. If I give you 4 things to do at once, you're going to trip up, and you're never going to be able to complete it, and you're not going to have any faith in yourself that you can resolve this. So we're going to do one at a time until you get them accomplished. But as soon as I sent that order through, here come the manager. You could have put them in 4 classes and you didn't. We could have built for 4 things. And I said, they're not going to be able to complete 4 things. If we put them in 4 things, they will fail and they will never resolve the issue. They'll feel like failures. They'll probably lose faith in themselves, and God knows what will happen. I said, we're going to have to build them up slowly so they can see that they can take care of this. But we could have built immediately. We would have gotten paid whether they got through it or not. Okay, listen, that's not my concern. My concern is for the health of the person. And they need to go slowly through this and see some sort of, success. And I mean, he despised me because I cost him money. He wasn't worried about the people at all. And I said, I'm worried about the people. I was trained to worry about the people. I'm not worried about your pocketbook. He hated me. He hated me. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sometimes there are very simple reasons that we have, experience things, and it's overlooked. And like I said, people love to overcomplicate things because they can get money out of overcomplication. They can hide truths in overcomplication. When you simplify things, they get scared because it just shines a light on whatever they're doing. Oh, that's so sad. I have seen so many things abused like that, Charity. I'm so sorry that happened. If you go back and watch the first of this, you'll also see somebody else that was put in a similar position that I talked about at the first of this. Yeah, a lot of people have learned how to weaponize the entire system, and it's almost like it was created that way for a reason. I have a lot of questions now since the education I got did not prepare me for the machine I was put into when I worked. And it's like I told my sister-in-law, she was going into work into social work, and I said, honey, if you have a heart, you can't work in that field. It will kill you. And I think she worked for 6 months and had to quit. It was about to destroy her. Yeah. Yeah, you can almost walk down the street now and see who is the manipulators now. It's for me it's very easy. I can almost scan a crowd and pick out the people that think they have power or are running the show. It's like picking a baby rooster out of a chicken lot. You can find them. Yeah, absolutely, Charity. She said they want to squeeze you to death. They do. They want to nickel and dime you and emotionally, use the best word, emotionally bleed you, and it's for financial gain and power. You don't understand them because you can never justify doing those things. So you're never going to understand them because in your mind that's wrong. It's a violation of that person. It's a violation of what God intended for that person. So you're never going to be able to see it because you can't. You will never approve it. Therefore, you can't comprehend it. And it took me a long time seeing felons do horrible things for me to preemptively understand really bad people, because I gained an understanding through watching all that. But yeah, for most people, you can't understand them because you cannot understand what you cannot compost. If you want to prove it and you can't think it, you won't understand it. Yeah, Colin, it's good to see you pop in, honey. I've not been on a lot. I'm sorry. Been busy. Been sick. The normal. Been making possums. The normal. This has been a really good chat. Everybody needs to go check out flock cameras. Go and look what has been taken out of diagnostic manuals in the last 5 or 6 years. A lot of stuff that was a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, was removed. Why? Because it was found to not be a mental health diagnosis? No, it was removed because they didn't want to oppress this group of people. Oppression should not come from a diagnosis. Understanding should come from a diagnosis. So why did they remove that diagnosis? Because it was financially savvy to do so. Because the medical field can make more money off of chasing these dreams and daydreams and fictional pictures these people had of themselves in their minds. They can make more money chasing that for them and modifying their bodies surgically than they could at a pharmaceutical pill every year. They could tenfold make more money. So they removed a lot of stuff from the DSMV because they could make more money if it wasn't a disorder. It was approved, and therefore these people get body modification surgeries. A lot more lucrative. So that's all that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. I was like, that's all listen. If you can say we have to save lives and get these kids in and help them, and then 2 years later you're going, oh, no, 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 let's just go ahead and push them straight through to surgery. Let's let a 13-year-old make a decision that they can't undo. Let's let all of these preteens that are confused, which every preteen has a moment of confusion with their body. It is what prompts your biological clock to kick in and your hormones to it it's a growth and exploration time. It should be confusing at times. But they have, you know, monetized that confusion and then turned it into an even bigger, money seeking scam. Um, because, gosh, if you're under 21, you can't drink. But at 12, you can tell us if you want to permanently sterilize your body. Really? Really? Mm. A lot of it's just greed and power, and playing with the people beneath them. It could be deeper. I like to oversimplify things when I talk about it. It helps people grasp the concept. But yeah, that's all I needed to see was when they start removing things from the diagnostic manual that a year before I could have gotten lost my, I say licensure, but I could have lost every accreditation I had if I had missed this diagnosis. But now poof, it was removed. But like last year, if I'd missed the diagnosis, this kid had harmed himself, I would have been at fault. But now, poof, it doesn't exist. Excuse me. I'm calling bullcrap on that one. So you see stuff and it starts to make sense the older you get, and you're like, oh crap. This Iran crap. They just need to bring out the rulers and everybody measure and see, because that's what I think it is, to be quite honest. Anybody that knows the Bible, there's never going to be peace over there. Never. Those people are not made for peace. And I'm not being derogatory. They're not made for peace. Their cultures are not made for peace. They do not value peace. You have to look at a culture and what they value. They do not value peace. So, if you get into a contract with those people and they don't value the things you value, then that contract is not going to be fulfilled. So why enter a contract with those places? Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. But people won't back up to see that. They won't say that. Oh wait, this culture does not value peace. This culture is not seeking peace. There's no way that we're going to have a peaceful existence if we get into a pissing contest with this culture, because they don't value the same things we do. There's not going to be any communication. Um, and then people act surprised when we end up in these wars, and it's like, really, did you look at the culture? And it's not to dog that culture. They do not value the things we value, and they do not value peace. They're just a different culture, and it's very difficult to get into contracts and obligations and financial arrangements with cultures that are so different. Oh, absolutely, it's by design. Absolutely, they knew exactly when they started poking that area what was going to happen, because I can sit here in Podunk and say, well, that culture doesn't value peace. Probably wouldn't do good to go and infringe their borders or create some kind of, you know, partnership that's going to obviously fail. And then guess what? They don't resolve things peacefully because they don't value peace. And it's like, but apparently these very smart men that run our government, they can't see that. They see dollar signs, whether it's war, peace, they see dollar signs. That's all they see. You think too much. Gosh, if I get started down that rabbit hole, we will be here till 9 o'clock, and I need to shut up because I'm gonna have to get some stuff done. Got the possum done though. Feel better about that. Got the possum done. I'm gonna put him on my possum tree. This will be 5 on there. 3 of the kitchen holder bag ones and 2 of the covers. So Oh, well, that doesn't mean that some of the people there don't want a different lifestyle, but overall, as a culture, they are raised to revere different standards, and they're not compatible with Western standards. And who was raised wrong? I don't know. Both sides of the globe have crap going on. Who knows? But for me, if I see a goat that doesn't respect fences, I'm probably not going to buy them and put them in my field. And I wish the government would kind of look at things that simple. I like my possums too. These are the in betweens. They're the in betweens of the snugglers that are not stuffed, and then the ones that have the legs that stand up. I've had people want an in between, so in betweens that are just lightly stuffed in the body, and people love them. So I've started making a few. Yeah, it does. It makes it simple. People don't like simplification. It's easy. You can hide things in complications, so they want to overcomplicate things. Oh yeah, Colin, and they'll get everybody vaporized because of something they can find almost anywhere else on the planet. It's sad. It's sad. And all these people that don't kill this part of our. Don't take a chance on harming part of our nation. Don't drill here. You'll kill a flower. Don't. But if we drill over there, we're going to end up in war, and we're going to lose hundreds of thousands of men, most likely, in a war. But they're more worried about the weeds and the trees. And I'm sitting here going, if yeah, Colin, I think you did. I think you took a stand and took a turn at addressing it in a way that no leader has before, and it kind of stumped him. It really did. I don't really think it's going to be beneficial in the long run because, like I said, they're always going to resort to horrible tactics. It's sadly it is their culture. It's the way they're raised. It's the way they're taught to think, and you're not going to stop that, in a few years. It's going to take multiple generations learning to scale down the hate. Hi, Henry. I watch some people that actually live over there on YouTube, and individually, they're sweet people. But they will also many times say, "Well, our government will not go for that. Our government's willing to fight. Our government's ready to fight. They want to fight." And I'm like, these people will tell you themselves. They know the vibe over there. They'll tell you what's going on. If you just seek them out and watch them, you'll learn a lot. So, if you have time, try to find some of these YouTubers that are from Iran. Try to find some that are from Israel. You'll get a whole different view of the world from these people that live there that are going through this, and they will tell you about their culture and how their culture is going to react. And 9 times out of 10, they're on it. They'll nail it. Yeah, charity. That's the culmination of it. Yeah, very, very well put. Are you doing frogs too? I do the little frogs. I do the little kiss your butt frogs. He's got polyfill on. Kiss my butt frogs. Kiss my butt. Called grumpy butt frogs. Let me see if I'm going to sit back up there. I do have the next boom my head done. I've got his arms, leg, and started his body. I've got his hair and his beard hair done. So as soon as I get the body put together, I can start. Then I can start the clothes and start putting the hair and stuff on. It's getting the body, the core doll done that takes the longest because it's so many thousands of stitches, and I'm go blind about halfway through. If you look at any culture that the Middle East has bled into, and we're talking um, Italy, look at France, UK. What changes? when those cultures become a large part of the population. There's more heated altercations. There are issues with young women because the religion says if you see a young woman that's out and basically betrays herself according to their religion, that you may do whatever you want to do with her as long as you kill her later. Now, I'm not lying about that. That is in the scripture they believe. And so, that's why all these gangs in the UK have become so predominant. These men can justify their behavior. Why? Because they were raised in a culture that didn't value peace. And they do not bring good tidings. They are so heavily entrenched in that thought, and it's that way of life is pushed so hard upon them. They live in a very controlled mental state over there, okay? They have very little free will. You are brought up to be just like everyone else, because if you stick out like a sore thumb, you will be took out. So when they in bulk move to other areas, it's not to peacefully integrate. It is to create change and to bring their way of life that they believe is the only way of life. They are not there to blend. They are there to battle. And it's other people want to fuss. I'm sure that there are good people that get lost in the mix. I'm positive, but it's not the highest percentage of people I'm worried about. I'm worried about the ones that are there for ill will or to perpetuate something that is not suited to the Western world. And we have become open. We have an open door policy. And listen, when you leave your door open, you're going to get something in your house you don't want. Well, yeah, they've neutered the police. Police can't do anything anymore. Police are the oppressors. They're the horrible people. But, and you look over there and like what happened in Belfast the other week, that is normal behavior in the Middle East. That is normal, justifiable behavior in the Middle East, according to the culture. And until we identify that, hey, he did that because it's normal behavior where he comes from, until we identify that and say, that's why we're not jiving. They're bringing their culture. It used to be if you wanted to come into a country, you had to assimilate. It's not that anymore. Now they want you to celebrate and be who you are, But sometimes, 99% of the time, assimilation is needed to maintain the safety, the laws, and the decorum of that place when it accepts new people. So, this, you don't have to assimilate. You can be who you want. No, that does not fly. Doesn't fly. They have no loyalty. They have, and if they come into a place and they don't want to be loyal to it, and they don't want to respect it, why they want to be there? Because they want to destroy it. And these are such simple things. And, they just try to overcomplicate it in the government. And, in the middle, they try to create a mental health component to it where, if you think that way, if you can identify centuries of behavior in a culture and say that's dangerous, then you must be a horrible person, And it's like, no, I'm a logical person. I'm a rational person. Thanks for stopping by, Charity. I appreciate you. I'm gonna have to shut up too. This has been a good talk, but yeah, Sabrina touched on the Venezuela quake, and I swear it was HARP. But anyway, things that they have that can understand the tension of the tectonic plates and that can possibly be the trigger momentum to create things. A lot of people are looking at the Venezuela quake saying it was different in the way it behaved, how long it lasted. And I have watched the footage, and it didn't look like a normal earthquake. It looked like a conveyor belt. And that is weird. But there a lot of people are researching this now, looking into it. So she sent me some stuff to look into. I've only did a cursory glance, but I'm going to go more into it as I have time. But yeah, start researching stuff like that. Look into stuff like that. The things that man can do that they should not do is plentiful and numerous, and it only takes a 15-minute Google search to find something you need to know more about. That flock cameras whose money and our information and all our community information, it goes to a foreign man instead of being held in our nation. It's a foreign owner. The funds go there, all the information goes there, all the data collected goes there. Red flag. Hello, why are we doing that? These are all things that just kind of need to be talked about. I've got another message held. Hold on. Colin. At Charity, a lot of people are concerned about that. And my kids are more aware, I think, because I talk about it so much. But how much they have absorbed and believe, I don't know. I think that my grandkids are going to be very open to it because I think they're going to be able to see it when they get older, because they didn't live through it. There wasn't a gradual progress. They're going to be raised and they're going to see the disconnect between me and them, and they're going to know what happened in their parents' timeline, and they're going to be very curious. I think we've got a young group that's going to be super curious. The 4 to 9-year-olds that we see at these markets and stuff are super curious about the old ways, the old things. It's like their minds and their bodies are automatically going back to skills that you're going to need. So I think that there's something intrinsic that is going to trigger in these younger kids, and they're going to make the connection. A lot of people, they get scared, and they think, again, with an emotion, it's a permanent thing, because we've made anxiety, depression, all this other stuff permanent. It's not permanent. It's an emotion. It's a bus stop. You feel it for 50 minutes, then you go on another one. And people fear emotions, even though the only way you learn how to handle life is to handle your emotions and handle the triggers and the inclinations that your body tells you something's changing. I'm going to tell you something's changing and how you need to respond, and you respond. So many people are just saying, I'm not going to respond. I don't want to know. And they think it's easier. It's not. It's so much more difficult to block all of that and to remain ignorant. It really is, than to just understand what's going on and handle it. But we've created the perfect environment, for all these lies and things to spread like wildfire, because we have a couple of generations that just have their head in the sand and they do not care. Charity, do you have your story written or published anywhere, or do you tell your story anywhere? Because that could be really helpful to a lot of people. You definitely should think about that. Definitely. Oh yeah, our internet, the history of the internet since conception, it kind of tells on us, as how sorry we are as a human population. Look at where we spend our time, not on good things. Well, the internet is 99% bots and trolls, which are fictional people that don't matter. But the few real people that you do meet, I think it'd be a good thing. But you do what's right for you. It does, Henry. But it also means that you exercise, and grow and learn how to handle more things. So you become a more flexible person, and that there's some good points to it too. Oh yeah, she sent me another thing about optogenetics last night too. She sent me 3 things to research. So I did preliminary. I've got to go deeper. No, you're not a dog. Yeah. Henry, yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, it's a huge thing to compost, Charity. It is. Sorry, Colin keeps sending me funny hidden messages. Sorry. Yeah, they seem to want a population that does just check out and let things happen. It's more easily managed. They really don't like people that scratch the surface and want to know more. You've got a lot to kind of research and grasp there, Charity, but it's good. You learn a lot through it. I'm gonna have to shut up because I'm gonna have to get some stuff done in this house. And I did make a possum. Yeah, I finished it, but I've got some other stuff I've got to do. That's wonderful that she's teaching him. A lot of these kids don't have parents that are tuned in enough to do that. The COVID era brought in a bunch of new health issues that seem to have been designer made. It's like these new health issues are now like designer collections that come out in the spring and the fall of each year. Stop. We don't want them anymore. Yeah, I've not been on much. I've been busy and not feeling the greatest, and a lot of stuff that has to be done this time of year that just has to be done. But I try to check in from time to time. I'm going to be doing a lot of just inside work the next few days, so I'll try to check in more than I have. Well, thank you. I actually did put on makeup. I felt really bad, and I thought maybe if I put on makeup, I'll feel better. I think it halfway worked. I'm trying to manipulate my own little environment so I can create creative behavior. Oh, it's a little sundress. I love these smocked sundresses. They're so comfy. We should wear sundresses all year. I mean, I guess you could with leggings. I like the colors. I sent Sabrina 2 tops the other day with that line I made her. And one of them is a smocked top, and it's pretty. And I've got one just like it, so we could twin in different states. But somehow I got 2. I think they just sent 2 of them. Like if they sent one, I didn't know they sent it. They sent another, so I sent her one, and I can't wait to see her in it. Thank you, Henry. I appreciate that. The cowboy. That's cute. I will. Also, we have someone that requested prayers. Her name is Adriana. Anyway, somebody that left a comment on another one of Sabrina's videos that I was talking to, and has been through a lot, and was requesting prayer for health, going through a lot of kidney disease stuff. So I know I sent a message to Sabrina to ask for prayers on her platform. So I'm going to get everybody to pray on here. Also, keep Gypsy in your prayers. She's still healing from her surgery. I've been trying to let her rest, and her daughter's keeping me in the loop. And Ashley, we need to keep Ashley in prayers too. Ashley's got a lot going on with the family. So, but I wanted to Adrian, I can't remember if it's Adrian or Adriana. I have blinked since then. But dealing with some horrible kidney disease issues. So she really wanted to have this group remember her. Winning's winning. It'd be funny if we actually put them on the same day in different states and then saw each other on the internet the same day and had the same shirts on. That would be funny. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you spending time with me. You know, it's been a long time since you see me. I'm not on as often as I used to be, and I apologize. I think things will get more stable as, you know, my health stabilizes, and I've been having a really rough time on my thyroid. So hopefully when we get that little booger taken care of, we'll be back to normal. I do have to, I've got to finish the horsehair bracelet. That's something I can do with y'all. I'm going to be doing a lot of crochet the next couple days. And I've got a frog in my throat. So we should be able to have some chats when I'm doing some crochet and stuff. So I'll try to pop back on, especially after I view the information that Sabrina told me to research. Probably have to have another chat about that. Maybe Monday or Tuesday. Absolutely, Henry. I have good days and bad days. And my good days, I feel really good. So I try to go 90 or nothing on those. I'll definitely come back and share it. As soon as I've researched it and have a better grasp of it, I'll come back and share what sticks out to me. But it's the stuff she sent me was very interesting. Thank you, Charity. I appreciate it. Guys, I'm gonna go. Thanks for hanging in and spending time with me. I love you a bunch. Y'all are a good group of people. And we'll try to do this again. Not wait as many days. We'll do it again soon. Same here, Sal. Thanks a bunch. All right, bye, guys. Looks funny. He's